This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Carson City today. Inside the state capitol, we are joined by Kelvin Atkinson. He is a Nevada State Senator, the Assistant Majority Leader. And I'd like to speak with you, sir, about the minimum wage. Just to set the stage, in Nevada today, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour if you get health insurance, $8.25 if you don't. Proposals in the Assembly and the Senate to adjust. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Now, the $7.25 is if you offer insurance, and the
Right.
$8.25 is if you do not. There's a couple of proposals going. The Assembly has something that is $15 an hour, and the Senate has Senate Bill 106, which will come before the committee that I chair, Commerce, Labor, and Energy. And it is proposed to $12 an hour, $12 an hour respectively, based on insurance or not. But we're asking for a 75 cents increase over the next 5 years.
Those are distinctive. I mean, the Assembly bill is quite aggressive. The Senate bill, arguably not as aggressive. We know our friends at SEIU would like to see a $15 an hour minimum wage. I mean, they've been talking about that throughout the nation. And so where do you go with that? I mean, when you have such, visions that are competing, it can be tricky.
Well, it can be, but, it's just a part of the process. I've always told people that the process in this building is a negotiated process, and that's what we're proposing to do. I mean, they will negotiate on the Assembly side where they think their votes will fall,
right.
And we will negotiate on our side where we think our votes will fall. At some point, one or both of the bills will switch houses,
right.
and then we will have different determinations and different negotiations and different things to discuss on both bills, but we're going to let them do what they need to do. I won't discuss what the Assembly should be doing with their bill. That is their choice.
But that being said, if I may, I mean, look, the Democrats are now in control of the Assembly and the Senate, and on an issue as arguably as important as this, should the leadership in both houses try to come together early on in the process? Or is it really more appropriate to do what you described, which is let each house do what it does, and we'll get to conference committee?
Well, I think it's the way that it is. I mean, again, the Assembly has to do what they have to do, and we're going to do what we have to do. I won't step on their toes, and I won't say anything adversarial to what they're trying to do over there. I support them in their efforts, but as you know, we do have a blueprint that is from both caucuses that is going to dictate what we're doing as both caucuses. But we're going to have a few items that we're going to have a little bit of differences on, and we're going to have to see where we agree.
I think it's fair to say that Republican Governor Sandoval is a bit queasy about minimum wage increases. Not sure if he would sign such a bill, but one could project that if he were to sign a bill, he would probably be more inclined to sign what we're looking at in the Senate, which is not quite as aggressive as what's going on in the Assembly. Is that part of the calculation?
I agree with you.
You're good. You're good. That's why he's Assistant Majority Leader. At the same time, let me ask, how far does this fight go? Because Nevada has something that's very interesting, is that if the governor vetoes the ultimate bill, we still can see the bill pass. It can pass as a constitutional amendment with a majority vote of each house for 2 consecutive sessions, and then voter approval in 2020. I mean, arguably the Democrats have done well in the legislature. They could do well again in 2018, continue to maintain the majority. Minimum wage votes have been passing in red and blue states. And so how far do you fight?
Well, I mean, you fight until the very end. I mean, you have California that moved to 15, you have Arizona that moved to 12, so our surrounding states are. And so we've got to be in a position to be able to compete with those states so that we're not losing our very good, good workers as well. And so I think that the fight continues. I mean, you're talking about the constitutional process, which takes 2 consecutive legislative sessions. I think we're all aware of that, and I think that if we don't get anywhere, that that's always a card that we have to play later on. But I think the first thing to do is to see if we can get some legislation out of this place.
I want to talk about an approach I learned about through the state of Oregon. In Oregon, what they did is they passed a minimum wage increase, but it's tiered. And I don't mean each year. In rural areas, it will be X. In kind of semi-rural, it will be X plus, let's say, 10. And in urban areas, X, let's say, plus 25. Nevada's not that dissimilar from Oregon in terms of it's got, here we are in Reno, Carson City, Vegas, higher standards of living, but in rural areas it's not as high. So would you look at that approach?
I think our state has always been consistent in treating all of our citizens the same way, and I don't think I would support an approach that treats certain citizens in different counties differently. I just don't think that that's the approach that we have taken over the 15 years since I've been here, and I just don't see that being something that's palatable.
Appreciate your candor on that.
Yes.
Let's talk about football. Exciting times indeed. The Raiders may be coming to Las Vegas. We'll see. But what we do know is that a package had been developed, $750 million from hotel taxes through Clark County, $500 million from the Raiders. So that's a good start, $1.25 billion. And then Sheldon Adelson was coming in with $650 million, and then he changed his mind. And so there's a little bit of a gap there. And so let's talk about that.
Well, there's a gap, but I probably should preempt this with that I am a huge Raider fan, and
Okay,
so I don't want anybody to think that I think I've been very clear on that. But I want the Raiders or any team to come here under the right circumstances. I think that the bill that we passed was the right circumstance. You got 500 from the Raiders, 750 from tourism tax dollars, and then Sheldon Adelson was proposing to kick in another 650. And so that portion today, as we know it, is gone. I continue to say that there's still, with his portion gone, there's $1.2 billion still on the table. And I think that somehow it gets worked out.
And let me ask you about that, though, because as I understand it, stadiums have been built fairly recently in that 1.2, 1.3 range. I mean, Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, 1.2, AT&T Stadium, 1.3 for the Cowboys. MetLife, it was up to 1.7, and the stadium in Inglewood, California, could be up to 2.5. But could it be that we start to look at the numbers and start to play with the numbers and look more towards a 1.2, 1.3 than a 1.9.2?
Well, and I think we, during our summer discussions with the Raiders and other folks, I think even the committee that has the authority to even put this forward, which brought it to us, I think everyone looked at that, and I think there's a lot of different variables. I don't think that you can look from state to state and compare us to what other states are doing. I think there is a lot of different dynamics, how much it costs to purchase the land, how much it costs to bring certain things here, how much it still is today versus what it was when Levi was built and other stadiums. And so I think it's an unfair assessment sometimes to compare what other states and other places have done unless you have done it all at the same time.
What about other high net worth individuals, Steve Wynn, folks like that? Can we look at them and say, come on board?
There's a lot of discussion on what happened there and why the Raiders did what they did. I think there's some discussion amongst some of the other billionaires in the NFL that they don't want to see anyone gaming associated with the stadium.
But Sheldon Adelson?
Same story.
Yeah.
So, I think that may be some of the issue. Things that I have heard that could be some of the issues. So I think they'd like to see someone who doesn't have those type of ties or interests. I don't know if that's the case, but if just reading the tea leaves and everything else that everyone else is reading, I think that may be some of the issue.
I appreciate your insight, your candor. His name is Kelvin Atkinson. He is a Nevada State Senator, Assistant Majority Leader of that august body. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're coming to you from Carson City, inside the state capitol, and it's right behind us. This is Local Edition. Thanks,
Thank you.
That was great. Appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.